Hello and welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hopefully you guys are doing well. We have made it to the final weekend of Phase 1 Alpha 2 testing for Ashes of Creation. We're going to go over kind of in general what has been happening throughout Phase 1 of testing, where it's at, where I'm at with it, what I've been doing, what I've been experiencing within the servers, and what type of prep do you think we're going to have for Phase 2, which is just 1 weekend away. However, we are looking into the future to see what is coming, and we are hopeful. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, as you guys know, if you have been following the channel, we have been covering various topics throughout Phase 1 of Alpha 2 testing. I have been a part of Alpha 2 testing every single weekend. I will say that these last 2 weekends I have dwindled off a little bit. I've had a lot of other things come up outside of testing in the world of Ashes of Creation. And this last weekend, unfortunately, I haven't been feeling the best. So I've been out of the loop with some things. However, I will say that the Phase 1 testing coming to an end is probably a good thing. From a player perspective and from the health of the server, the testing realms, all of that. And what I mean by that, from a player standpoint, I can see and hear and just see in game that there are a lot of folks who have lost interest, are achieving that burnout, have either been max level for a while and they don't really have anything to do. They have, their max level gear. They've accomplished everything that they personally feel they've needed to accomplish. And that's leading to a few people just becoming toxic and things like that. Obviously, that's always going to happen, right? And whatnot. But that's also leading to a content desert, is what I would like to call it. You're not able to find groups as easily as you were before. So you have to go and think outside the box on some things. At one point it was me and a cleric. We were just doing these golems out in the desert, I believe it was, or the tropics. One of the two, and we were just grinding these guys, these one-star little golems, and AoEing them down. It went pretty well. Again, thinking outside the box, just a mage and a cleric went out and did some stuff. Overall, though, we did get PvP'd by, a much larger group. And that is to be expected in the open PvP areas, right? You can get PvP'd at any time in those areas, so I'm not too bunched up about that. But as far as trying to find a group to do content, that has dramatically slowed in the 2 weekends in December. It is dramatically harder to find a group to go do Steel Bloom or Carfin or Highwayman Hills, anywhere these grinding spots that you would think. It is harder to do that, and I think that is weighing on the player base. There are players who are trying to experience the game still, who are trying to get the most out of their time in Phase 1 testing. And unfortunately for them, they're having a little bit of a sour experience, I think. Hopefully everyone is staying positive and, just seeing that, wipe is coming, Phase 2 is coming. People are going to trail off for a little bit, and then there's going to be an influx of folks during Phase 2 to see what's going on. As far as for the health of the server, I think, again, right, it plays into everything that we've kind of talked about already, that You know, we don't want the community to be seen as being toxic, or people that are just PvPers, or people that are just griefers, that the game has no content, or that there's nothing to test in Ashes of Creation. Things like that play a part in this, and I'm glad to see that Phase 1 is coming to an end, and we're moving to Phase 2. And the biggest part and the biggest call out here is to Intrepid, that they, at least from the time of recording of this video, seem to be on schedule for December 20th release of Alpha 2. So hopefully, you know, within the next 5 days or so, nothing changes. I don't think anything will change. We are getting a live stream on the 20th as well. It remains to be seen what we're going to get out of Intrepid this week and as we lead up to Phase 2. As far as what was happening in the testing realm throughout the phase, obviously the whole purpose of this phase of testing was server stability, scalability, and performance, right? Everything outside of that was just bonus and gravy for Intrepid as far as getting data on. But the main purpose were those three things, I think, for Intrepid. So early on, obviously, we saw the performance issues, the stability issues, you know, server cap issues, population issues, server workers going down, things like that. We saw all sorts of stuff. As we've progressed through Phase 1, a lot of that has been addressed and has been patched and worked on and iterated on by Intrepid. And they are, you know, on top of things on their weekly cadence. They, you know, are on top of things with staying on cadence when bringing the servers down for maintenance when they're up, and applying some quick patches and hot fixes. So overall, the stability, the performance of the servers have gone up since the start of Phase 1 Alpha 2 testing. Now, I do know that they did do a stress test server this weekend, this last weekend. They made a server to stress test the server. You could log into that server, make a character, and as soon as you moved out of the Divine Gate area, you automatically leveled to 25. And this was to promote as many people into the one realm, to stress test the server with player cap, population density, the server workers. And everyone was given 200 gold, I think, to buy equipment, to buy horses, mounts, what have you, you know, caravans. Because the whole premise of everything on that server was to go and stress test all across the entire realm. So people were engaging in PvP, in caravans, in all sorts of stuff, PvE content, raid bosses, all sorts of stuff. I think one thing that I truly enjoyed was being able to experience, I've been playing mage fairly regularly, but I made a mage and I made a fighter. But it was cool to experience a max level character. The only downside to that would be is I was a max level character with max level skills and whatnot, but I was a new level 1 character with gear, right? So the damage output, the progression didn't feel good. But again, it was nice to experience a full roster of skills to see what that build would look like. And to understand how, you know, come launch or come Phase 2, what my build for mage might be. Outside of that, they only had that server open for a little bit of time. There have been other things where they have done like server-wide events on Lyneth. I think Steven and some GMs, you know, came in and spawned in, you know, enemies, or wanted to do a node versus a node type battle, and see how many people could be in one area, things like that. So there have been other things happening on our server, and you know, it's all leading up to, I think, this big penultimate, you know, Phase 2 launch. So looking forward now into Phase 2, there is a switch that is going to occur in, I think, priorities for testing wise. We're going to start to move away from what I would call maybe some of the back-end systems, right? The server stability, the performance, scalability. We're going to start to move away from that, and we're going to start testing actual game systems. And I think the biggest game system in phase 2 is going to be the node system. And I'm most looking forward to this because I would love for them to have a couple of other nodes in the tropics, a couple of nodes in the desert, and then the original 5 nodes in the Riverlands. I think that would allow for a lot more players to kind of spread out, for people to enjoy things in different areas, for the economy to start being tested, right? That there are rare resources in the tropics or the desert that no one in the Riverlands has. So that would promote caravans, that would promote the PvP, that would promote trade and commerce between nodes. Overall, the mayors have been working together as one kind of big group. But I do feel like there is that big economy, that political system missing, right? Where there are these big guilds, like let's say Narc or Thor with Pirate Software, right? That would control a good portion of a node and a good portion around that node, let's say, right? But then there are guilds or alliances such as the one that I have and I'm a part of, right? Where we're lower numbers in guild, but combined in our alliance, we're a pretty big group that can work together with these way bigger guilds, right? So we're in the desert and we do a trade pact between actual pirates and Thor that we're going to provide, X amount of resources with their protection. We'll bring it from the desert to their node, let's say in Halcyon, right? I think that's a big portion of the economy and of the political scheme of the game that is missing, that I'm looking forward to. And I think the biggest thing that would lend to that being a more successful test or more data on that testing would be an expansion in nodes. Having those 5 nodes, yes, they are far apart, but they are pretty close at the end of the day, right? New Ayla to Jova is close. New Ayla to, let's say, Miraleth would probably be your longest trip, depending on how you went, because you're crossing the entire map. And I think overall, going to the desert or going to the tropics can vary in distance. If you're going from, let's say, New Ayla to the desert, that's probably the longest trip. If you're going to Miraleth to the tropics, another long trip. But if you're going Jova or Halcyon to the tropics, it's not that big of a difference in time as it would be from Halcyon to Jova. So I think adding nodes is going to be key, and then having node sieges is going to be key. And what goes along with that is also the vassaling, the node vassaling that is coming in phase 2. I'm super excited for that as well, because that will be a good point to test that system, I feel like. But for that to occur, they're going to need, I think, a lot more nodes than just 5 in the entire Riverlands. So I'm curious to see what a node looks like in a zone of influence, and what a node looks like in a biome, right? Because right now the players are either unconsciously or subconsciously being trained that a biome, the Riverlands, is going to have 5 nodes. So the biome, the tropics, is going to have 5 nodes. The biome, the desert, is going to have 5 nodes. And if you go with that and you do the math, unfortunately, you're going over. I think the number is still 85 nodes throughout the world that Intrepid wants to have. I could be wrong on that. I know it was in the hundreds before, but I'm pretty sure they came down to 85. It's been a while, guys, so if the number is wrong, please don't hold me to it. I'm giving you this disclaimer that I am not 100% sure. But if 85 is the correct number, 18 times 5, there's going to be 18 biomes, I think, in Ashes of Creation at launch, is 90 nodes. So we're already 5 over. So not every biome appears to be getting 5 nodes. It might not every biome might not have 5. It might be 4 nodes, right? So it will be interesting to see what the zone of influence is and how the vassaling occurs. I think that's my biggest thing that I want to see and go through and test and see how it works, is nodes and how they vassal and the zone of influence and how that kind of all plays together. It'd be nice to, throw in a castle here and there, just to see what that's like. But again, these are all things that I'm hoping for in phase 2 of Ashes of Creation Alpha 2 testing. As always, guys, I appreciate you for being here and supporting the channel. If you're not subscribed, please do consider subscribing to the channel. It's completely free. It costs you nothing. It helps the channel out a little bit. It gets you guys, the notifications of new uploads if you're enjoying the content. That's it. Like, comment your thoughts on phase 1, comment your thoughts on the upcoming phase 2. I am cautiously optimistic going into phase 2, as I was coming into phase 1, because, phase 1 overall I think was a good testing phase and a good testing experience from my perspective. And I look forward to phase 2 being the same. As always, guys, I appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one.